Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back down the rabbit hole. I am your host, Monty Hook, and I'm in the studio in Bali. And today I'm joined by AJ.
Here I am. Thank you.
Thanks very much for coming in, man. You are a very big man. And how tall are you?
I'm 6'7".
6'7".
201 centimeters. Yeah, 250 pounds, 115 kilos, and that is the most often question that I get in my life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I know there's a lot of depth to you. I know there's a lot more than just your sheer size, and you're very good in what you do in high performance, human optimization. And I don't know the depths of your story, but you're from Lithuania originally.
Born and raised.
And so you're an athlete of some sort, or?
I was of some sort. So
Yeah.
I played basketball because growing up in Lithuania, basketball is like we call it a second religion in our country. And then I played in college when I moved to the US, and actually got into boxing and found myself, it was my hidden talent that I've discovered pretty late in life, and considered turning professional. However, that just wasn't the path that I figured I could use my head for
Right.
better good.
So did you see that was not a sustainable thing, that you didn't like getting beat up, or what was it?
I just realized that the damage that you experience through that, once I started really studying biology and anatomy and injuries and all that kind of stuff, I just realized, hey, this is horrible. This is bad. So it subtracts a lot of years.
Yeah, but that's also good, I guess, because you're also because you're so interested in the study behind it. You can now teach people better ways of building their body so that they don't get the damage and
precisely that, or recover quicker.
Yeah.
Now, so if anybody has any brain injury or concussions, I just have tools to recover them from the faster. Yeah.
Cool, man. So look, a human optimization and high performance, it could mean anything, right? It's a very subjective kind of thing, and probably means different things to different people. But what does it mean to you?
So first of all, we want to be when it comes to human optimization, being an optimized human and being a high performer, it's ultimately having your full potential and accessing your full potential and removing all the interferences that we have. And we have so many interferences in our day-to-day. So I like looking at it as not as in adding something, but subtracting the stupid things that we do on a day-to-day basis. Yeah, so once you subtract those stupid things, it makes room for smart things to incorporate into your day-to-day. And once we achieve that, then we get closer and closer and closer to being our best possible selves in every area. So ultimately, the whole journey, man. Should we go down from the beginning?
Yeah, sure, man.
It's super organic. How it happened and evolved, it was extremely organic because, first of all, I grew up in Lithuania. I was super sick as a child. At the age of 13, I had kidney stones. I was on antibiotics for about 5 years straight. And I was just a mess, really. Yeah. It's like allergic asthma, all kinds of nonsense.
Was that environmental, or was it what? Do you know what it was?
All of the above.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just first environmental. Simply, I was born prematurely as well. I had some heart issues as a baby who was born prematurely. So I've been told that I could never be an athlete. I could never be do this or be that. So it kind of just formed a lot of limitations around my physiology. And so it happened that I ended up in the military. And that's something I found ways around, all those injuries and
in the USA
setbacks. In the beginning, I was in Lithuania, and then I transferred into the USA. So ultimately, in the beginning, I realized that I have to do something about this meat suit that is not serving me. It's like, what's the first thing that you go after? I mean, you want to look good. It's like, if you look good, you're going to feel good. So fitness was my entry point to optimization, if you will. And the funny thing was that when I looked my best, I felt my worst. And then I see these magazine covers of, dudes looking great, six pack and all that. It's like they look like Greek gods. And the reality is that, you're starving yourself, you're libido-less, and just for that one shoot. So,
what I understand of what they have to do is a lot of up and down. It's like yo-yoing and dieting, and there's no stability to what they're doing.
It's horrible. It's horrible for your body. So but once I realized that, it's like, okay, I have to dig into that nutritional component. What is that sustainable way of maintaining it? So fitness, followed by nutrition. Then I was suffering from insomnia, so sleep was another thing that I unpacked and optimized. Then it was my stress management. I started meditating, started with basic stuff, mindfulness, then transcendental meditation, got into Vipassana later on, and then environmental toxicity as well, because I had mold poisoning at one point in my life, and I realized how much it affects our brain performance and just physiology in general. So unpacking that, and it's like, okay, so now my meat suit is optimized. What do I do next? All right, so mindset. A lot of things that we just don't consider is like how we think, the language that we use, the people that we hang around, the angle that we look at the world from. Is just so many things that we don't consider, and it all really starts here because but again, it's the full circle. If your meat suit is not optimized, you're not able to tap into your full mental potential. If your mental potential is holding you back, then you're not able to pull through your physical potential. So
and I mean, my experience over the years has been, and this is probably for most people, is they kind of deal with one thing at a time, right? It's like it's actually can be pretty difficult to get your fitness really good and then move on to your nutrition, and then it's like, because you if you put that much effort into one thing, well, then something else is likely to break.
Right. Exactly.
So how do you? Is it a matter of fixing one thing first, really drilling down on one thing, and then moving to creating that as a habit, and then moving to the next thing, or do you look at all facets at the same time?
I really look at the whole optimization from ultimately 3 stages. So it's foundation, optimization, mastery.
Yeah.
And identifying where people are falling behind the most, that's one of my gifts, really. So knowing that, okay, you don't even have fundamentals in this area, so we're building those up, and automatically you're gaining so much momentum because it's such a new thing. When you implement something completely new that is really life-changing almost, then you see results and progress and that momentum that's created behind it super quickly.
Yeah. And I have to assume there's a lot of unlearning for people as well, because like for me back in the day, like the first thing I ever did was I did gym 20 years ago, because there was no, healthy calisthenics, and, it's like you go to the gym, you get really big heavy weights and you look at what the other dudes are doing and you just go hard and heavy, and it's not necessarily good for your body, right? I'm sure there's a healthy way to do it, but when the masculine and the ego kind of takes over and it's all about physique and you want to look good and you want to be big,
right?
It's can be very, very unhealthy. And then the idea of then trying to build something on top of that, well, you got bad foundations, right? You're trying to build a skyscraper on a shaky
porous foundation. Yeah.
Exactly, right?
Precisely, man. That's exactly the point. It's like with that mindset, it's like when you're trying to put on muscle, you're trying to achieve something that you haven't, just overcompensating for something that you don't have. And that's a funny thing as well. So when it comes to, in general, what I mentioned in the beginning is like doing less stupid things. And as you mentioned, unlearning, that's the biggest thing. It's like once you kind of unpack those areas where you're being stupid, if you will, then it's easier to do more of those smart things. And my approach really is minimal effective dose. Because realistically, every single person, let's give the example of physiology. Taking care of your physiology, that's easy. You go to the gym for 3 to 6 months. I mean, I was able to put on like 50 pounds of muscle in 6 months.
Yeah, which was probably like 10 pounds for the average person, but
pretty much. Yeah, so that's once you know what you do, and actually if you overthrow your lifestyle with just doing that, it's easy.
Yeah.
But then the point is like, what is that for? To tell your grandkids, so back in the day, I looked like this, and because I was going to the gym 15 hours a week, it's like that's not sustainable. And at the point that we are right now, to really optimize our output, we want to make sure that it's sustainable. We want to make sure that it's integrated into our lifestyles, and it's not overthrowing our lifestyles with those. I mean, obviously, like I'm into this so much, and I'm always constantly testing, tweaking, just my
measuring.
Yeah, one of my friends actually called my little bag, it's like Mary Poppins bag of biohacking stuff. So it's just like, I'm just curious about this stuff, and some things work, some things don't, and then I really boiled down the areas that, okay, these are the game changers, and they really work, and they require minimal time and investment, and these that I'm gonna share. And for most people, again, like there are certain inputs that across the board, every single person needs to have in order to have that foundation and get to the next level into optimization.
Yeah. So let's talk about the fundamentals. I guess we're talking about movement, exercise. We're talking about nutrition. We're talking about mindset. What else are we talking about?
Environment and
longevity. Longevity. Yeah. So how is there like a sweet spot, right? So example, like if I was going to go hyper focused on being an athlete, it's like, well, I'd probably be doing things which isn't necessarily best for longevity, right? Yeah. And then if I was only focused on longevity, well, then I probably couldn't get the kind of body that my ego desires, right? So is there like some kind of sweet spot where we can maximize all these things? And how do we do that? Asking for a friend.
That's a lot to unpack. It's a great question. So with the sweet spot, yeah, there is. I believe that there is. And the beauty of it is that we are looking for balance. And that's something that performance does not happen at the point of balance. It happens at the extremes. And us being able, if you're on the bicycle, it's like you have to move forward in order to stay balanced. It's like you can't sit still, while driving the bike. So the sweet spot is whatever it is that you want to accomplish. So establishing your priorities is like, is it you wanting to look good? Is it you wanting to perform? Is it you optimizing your brain performance, physical performance, and identifying what is it that is important to you?
Well, example for me, it's now all of those things. Like there would have been once upon a time where it would have been just my body. Like I wouldn't have cared about too much else. And then now I'm like, okay, well, I broke my body. That's not smart. So now my number one thing is like my focus with exercise now is mobility. Right. Like that's my, and will it be like that forever? No. But the reason I have that now is because I know that's what I need to do to repair my body so I can have a stronger foundation where I could then build muscle again if I so desire to, which my ego still wants to because I'm still a man, right? So, but now I'm okay with being patient, right? So there's longevity there for sure, but I don't, some people talk about longevity like, they want to live forever, and that doesn't even enter my mind. What I feel like is I want to maximize every day. Like I want to feel the best that I can every single day for however long I'm alive, whether that's 1 year, 10 years, 100 years.
We're on the same page. And when it comes to lifespan and health span, those are two completely different things. I don't care about the lifespan. I care about the health span. Yeah. And if I'm, like, I do believe that I'm going to live until 120 and beyond, but I'm still going to be able to pick up things off the floor and raise my arms over my head. So I'm actually mobile, I'm functional, and I'm still able to use my brain, because I don't want to be, just
useless.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't want to be useless at whatever age that it is. And when it comes to mobility, it's a great point, because we tend to load up dysfunctional movement patterns, and that's how most people get into injuries. They're trying to overcompensate and just asymmetries, and that's something that really I experienced myself, and I had to undo the damage that has been done. So that's I'm right there with you. And when it comes to longevity, really, it's like I treat movement as a checklist. So for me, movement and exercise is not like going to the gym. Going to the gym consists of maybe like 2 hours a week for me of all the movement that I do. I have, so for example, my workstation has a little treadmill under the desk. So while I'm working on my computer, while I'm taking my coaching calls, while I'm creating stuff, I'm moving. You know, our body's created to move. It's like I'm gonna get antsy in a few minutes. You know, it's like because I'm not used to sitting for an extended period of time. So even when I'm sitting, man, it's like I'm engaging my core.
Yeah.
So it's like I'm barely touching the back of the seat.
But this is not taught to us. Like
No,
we're taught for the last 50 years or whatever. It's like, you know, sit there and be quiet. Right. You're not taught to move.
It's horrible. That's the thing. It's horrible.
But I don't think human bodies are not designed like that. We're not designed to sit still.
Man, look at Asian populations, Asian cultures. Every single person in their 20s, 30s, 40s, they can squat. They can get into a deep squat, hold it, and they eat soup. It's like their resting position. So once I identified, I remember I could barely get into like a 90-degree angle. I was like, I can deadlift 600 pounds, but I can't get into a deep squat. So it's like, what's the point?
Yeah.
And how I was like, what is this for? So that functional strength and functionality really is huge for me. So as I said, integrating everything into our lifestyle rather than overthrowing our lifestyle with these practices.
Yeah. So what are all the modalities of exercise that you're doing? You're doing the movement through the day. Are you doing like heavy resistance in the gym as well?
Yeah.
And what else?
So that's my checklist ultimately on a weekly or bi-weekly basis, depending on how busy I am, how much I'm traveling, and all that. Excuse me. On a day-to-day basis, low-level physical activity. So I have a certain reminder on my computer that blocks my computer screen every 40 or 45 minutes. And I have 3 minutes to step away from the computer. I do a few squats, push-ups, handstands, what have you. While I'm working, I'm mostly walking. And additionally, every week I want to hit weights, lift something heavy. So pick up and put down heavy things. That's as simple as that. And something heavy, then one time a week I do something super explosive where I go just all out for 20 seconds and for full recovery, 5 to 8 rounds, whether it's assault bike, hill sprints, swimming, what have you. So just you go all out as hard as you can. That's for our mitochondrial density, and that
just once a week.
Yeah, once a week. Phosphocreatine system. It's like under 20 minutes. That whole workout is under 20 minutes. Then I do some heart health as well. I want to keep this baby beating because of the problems that I had in my childhood. So ultimately doing like a 1-to-1 ratio work to rest at highest sustainable pace. So that would be, let's say for beginners, 3 minutes on, 3 minutes off at a very uncomfortable pace. So whether you're rowing, biking, swimming, running, whatever it is, just do that. And another thing, just some high intensity stuff, high intensity interval training, 18-minute workout, coupling like a Tabata type stuff where 20 seconds off, on 10 seconds off. Simple, keeping it super, super simple. Because if I start overcomplicating it, again, it becomes boring. If I do like the whole bodybuilding routine, I dread that stuff. It's like, okay, I'll put on 10 pounds of muscle, and then I was like, what does that do to me? It's pointless.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm doing every morning. First thing I do when I wake up in the morning is I have some minerals, and then I do some movement, usually about 15 minutes, sometimes 20 minutes, just like gentle yoga, mobility, depending how I'm feeling. I'll grab the bands. Sometimes I'll hang. I've got the rings and all of that. First thing in the morning, and then every day I try to do some cardio. Surfing's my favorite, but I haven't been surfing lately because I've had injury. So I might do some treadmill, bike, rowing in the gym, and then either like every second day I'll try to do resistance. I haven't been doing anything heavy this year at all because of the injury.
Gotcha.
But I still try to, keep the resistance going. And then on the second days of that, then I would do maybe Pilates or something like that. So I'm doing a couple hours every day. That's
a lot. Like for me, that's a lot, because then you're dedicating. Again, personally, I do enjoy exercise. I hate the gym. Like every time I talk to people and then I say I hate the gym, they kind of look at me and it's like, oh yeah, oh yeah, AJ, really?
Are you some kind of freak?
It's like, you just so you hate the gym, but you don't hate steroids, huh? So ultimately, what I really don't like that environment, because the chemicals, all just not my jam. Honestly, it's just like I utilize that as a tool minimally.
Yeah.
So I'll go there to pick up and put down heavy things. That's it.
It does become a cultural thing to be in there, you know? Yeah, you get wrapped up in the gym world. And,
exactly. And when you look at fitness world in general, now what do we got to? It's like these treadmills with screens on them. People just go there to kind of check the box, but not do the work.
Yeah.
Like
they're not being present to it either. They're not being present.
Exactly.
Yeah.
For me, it's like one of those things that, hey, I'm not just only gonna put in the hours, I'm gonna put in the work.
Yeah.
And the more work I put in, the less hours I need to actually invest.
Yeah, like when I'm at the gym, I've got my headphones on and I don't talk to anybody, and you know, of course I can't stop people coming and talking to me, but I'm very quick to get out of there and I'm just in the zone and I want to be present to what I'm doing. So
yeah. So one of the things that I really preach is no more than 3 hours a week of like the dedicated time to exercise.
Really?
Like 3 hours is my maximum. I don't think in the past 3 years I've hit over 3 hours.
Wow.
Really? Yeah.
That's really interesting. That's cool.
Yeah. So it's like once you have that checklist and you hit all those points, that's it.
So that 3 hours that you're talking about, is that because that's through a lot of experimenting that you've done? Is that through working with lots of people? Where is that kind of come from?
All of the above, I would say, because first of all, recovery component. So I look at our body as a battery, and in a given day, we have a certain amount of, I guess, charges that we can take out of that battery. So that would be, let's say, take 10, for example. So we're stressed. We're using our brain very intensively. So that subtracts at least 5 out of that 10. I add poor sleep on top of that, which most people struggle with. That's -2. We're already at a 3.
And then depending on what you eat, like that's 15 or 20.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. What you eat, that's a massive one.
Yeah.
So you're already in the negative. It's like, and then people, they do fasting. So fasting is one of the things that, hey, it's healthy. It's a good thing for me to do. But if your battery is already in the negative, you're adding another stressor. Now you're ultimately getting your adrenals on fire. It's like you put exercise on top of that, and then another thing.
So the immediate result might be that you lose weight, you get some immediate gain,
right?
But you're not creating a healthy, sustainable ecosystem for yourself.
Precisely.
Yeah. That's super interesting.
So being aware of that, because I know how much output I produce really on a daily basis and how much I use my brain, and that's what uses up most of my calories throughout the day. And so I know that if I add exercise on top of that, I have to be mindful on a daily basis. So simply, exercise is not a priority. I know that it helps me, helps my brain performance, and helps. It's like a tool. That's it. It's like not something that I want to spend too much time doing, because it's simply a tool. That's it.
Yeah, but it also sounds like because of all the other movement you're doing through the day, it's just kind of weaved in through your life.
Yeah. And that's a goal ultimately. So as I said, integration, like that minimal effective dose, and having that design your environment to be as simple as possible for you to move, for you to have those little inputs, as I said, in the morning. That's actually something that I'd like to cover and go back to, is morning routines.
Yeah.
Like you anchoring yourself into that amazing state first thing in the morning. There's nothing better than that. Yeah. So like a little checklist. Hydration, number 1. Movement, number 2. Sun exposure or fresh air, number 3. And then some sort of a mindset or spiritual practice, number 4. That's it. It's like how it can take anywhere from 5 to...
That's my first hour.
15 minutes. Yeah,
That's
exactly.
my first hour.
Sometimes I take, time. For example, now I started scheduling my Wednesday mornings in for deep meditation. 4 a.m. to 8 a.m. That's my meditation time. And for the past half a year, a bit more than that, I've been taking my Saturdays or Sundays off completely in the morning. From the moment I wake up till like noon or 2 p.m., I'm just meditating. Just spending time in silence. It's just kind of that I found to refresh me and reset me completely. It's like a nice reset button.
Yeah. Wow, that's really amazing, man. That's cool. It's also a very disciplined thing to do.
It sounds like it, but I don't see it that way.
Did it feel like that in the start though?
I guess I kind of establish my why before I start, and then when I have that driver, it's like I know exactly how I'm gonna benefit from this.
Yeah.
I know exactly why I'm doing this. and that's why I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
And
I mean, at the end of the day, it is a discipline.
Right.
But when you are disciplined, it doesn't feel like a chore. It doesn't feel like a discipline. It just feels like it's part of your part of your life.
It's a part of my yearly checklist or yearly checklist. So, for example, fasting is another discipline, if you will, that I would do 3 times a year for 5 days. I do this fasting mimicking protocol. So I used to do water fasts. Now I transitioned to this more advanced protocol where ultimately what you have to do is cut your calories at about 20-ish% of what you normally consume. Protein is super low, and it tricks your body into thinking that you are in this catabolic state. So once protein is super low, it suppresses this mTOR pathway, which is known to be as an anabolic or aging pathway. And once you suppress that a few times a year, it regenerates your stem cells as well. So it's one of the easiest, most practical health hacks that I can offer people because it's so simple. 5 days, you don't really have to think about it. It's like I actually geek out on this stuff. I dive into the research. So it's been patented with a certain product was coupled with it. So just went to the US patent site, dug it out, and then built a calculator around it where you just input your weight and it spits out all the macronutrient breakdown.
Yeah, I might have to consider that. I mean, I do fasting, but mine is more for the extended fast is more intuitive. I don't do it kind of a timed thing. Usually every month I try to do 1 to 2 days. And I know that at like 3 days, that's when you have like stem cell regeneration, etc. But mine is more just to give my digestion a break, just to give that a break. Intermittent fasting every day.
Right.
I'm usually on a 16 to 18 hour window.
Gotcha. That's something that I want to talk about, actually.
So that's what I find it. I have found that works for me. And then a few times a year, I'll do an extended fast. So 4 or 5 days, just water or just coconut or something.
Gotcha.
Not with any particular agenda, more just a good reset. Good reset, yeah. So what have you? So this protocols that you do for yourself with fasting. This is also what you're teaching other people as well. So
Usually.
So tell us more about that. What's the recommended? It's like with intermittent fasting. What do you suggest?
Ultimately, when it comes to fasting, it's a great tool. But the problem is that a lot of people are doing it wrong.
Yeah.
First of all, it should not be for weight loss, specifically for weight loss, because that, man, I've seen so many people getting into eating disorders through that, and that's very unfortunate. So being careful with that, especially. And so intermittent fasting, amazing tool. For me personally, it's 13 to 17 hours. On the lower end, so if it's 13 hours if I'm super active. Towards the 17-hour mark is when I'm less active and
probably
annoying.
Pretty similar to me too. Like if I had a big surf in the morning, I'd just be like too freaking hungry.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's like listening to your body, because that allows you, once you kind of get to that point where you can listen to your body and understand what it's telling you. It's a powerful place to be at. And then 24-hour fasts, I would do that 2 to 3 times a month. And then just dinner to dinner or breakfast to breakfast, super simple. And at the end, every quarter or every 4 months, I would do that 3 times a year of fasting mimicking protocol. Yeah.
Mm.
And one of the things that people are doing wrong is, juice fasts. Juice fasts or even coconut fast, because what are you doing? Ultimately, you're trying to tap into your fat stores, right? When you're fasting. And then you're feeding your body with pure glucose, like juice fast, there's this pure sugar going straight into your bloodstream, raises your insulin levels. It's like your blood sugar crashes, and that's so bad, man. Like that's one of the worst things that you can do.
I mean, what I've read and what I understand is juice fasting as a protocol it's an easy entry in for people because they're getting calories, they're getting nutrition, they're satiating, getting some taste. They're getting obviously some energy from the sugars. But then they're also still getting some vital nutrients in there as well. But I think once you kind of gotten through that where you don't need that, you're better off just doing water. And
exactly. And juices, I'm not against green juices that have pretty much no sugar in them with like limes and stuff like that. However, most people do like pineapple, watermelon, and that's like pure fructose. That's really bad. And another thing that really most people think that, hey, the longer I go with the fast, the more hungry I'm gonna get. And the beauty of it is that our hunger hormones, leptin and ghrelin, they go in cycles. So it's just a wave. So you're not gonna get more hungry. That hunger dissolves at certain hours. It comes back. It dissolves. It comes back, and it dissolves. Once you recognize those cycles, that's it.
Yeah, and I think once you're used to fasting, you don't even feel that. You don't. Right. I don't even get hungry.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. And that's also the concept of metabolic flexibility. So once you're able to tap into your fat stores and produce ketones for energy, you simply don't need it.
Yeah. Cool, man.
382 days, I think the world record is. 382 days straight, or 84, I would say. Yeah. So it's like, our bodies know better what to do with less food than with more food.
Yeah. I mean, those extended fasts, there is a mental aspect and a spiritual aspect to that,
100%.
which is 100% related for sure. But I think when you're starting out, don't worry about that. Like you just get through the physical, for sure. But I think it can be an access to deeper spiritual work for
100%, 100%. And I've seen that. I've experienced partially that as well. So it's powerful.
Yeah.
Powerful.
So what's your philosophy on nutrition?
Nutrition, simple, man, simplicity. Again, the whole thing, minimal effective dose. I don't just preach it, I practice it as well. Yeah. So minimal effective dose. And
so what about like counting macros and stuff like this?
Oh, hell no. No way, man. It's just a waste of time. The thing is, one of the reasons is because the accuracy, the label accuracy, is so off. It's like about 15% already. Yeah. Then your hormonal, your absorption, so bioavailability of that food, and your gut microbiome reaction with that specific food, that's another 10 to 15% fluctuation. Then hormones, another 10 to 15%. We're looking at 30 to 50% already off. So it's...
Who knows?
Yeah, exactly. So definitely not. It could, for athletes and athletic populations, it's a good guide for sure. You can utilize it, but if you stick to whole foods as close to their natural state as possible. That meaning that, hey, that's unrefined and processed, what you get from an organic garden. If you choose to eat animal products and animal proteins, grass-fed, grass-finished, pasture-raised, that's it.
So what's your philosophy on meat? You're eating meat. What do you eat? What's a typical meal or typical day for you?
So again... almost a checklist on a weekly basis. It's like I have certain things that I want to get into my body. One of them is organ meats. Organ meats are huge, man. It's nature's multivitamin. Kidneys, liver, hearts. So, for example, pasture-raised organic chicken hearts. Those are delicious, and they're so nutrient dense. It's insane. Liver at least once a week as well. I'm not a huge fan of its flavor, but if cooked in grass-fed butter with some garlic and mustard on top, hey, it masks it. So, or blend it into something. So that's another thing. And we move so far away from our original way of eating, nose to tail. It's like that's where all the nutrients are. It's like we have been conditioned to these muscle meats, chicken breasts and stuff like that, where I call chicken breasts actually the white breads of animal protein. So it's the amino acid ratios are crap.
Well, and also because they're a weak bird, right?
Exactly.
They're just a weak bird.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like you are what you eat, and you're eating a weak bird.
Yeah, precisely. Yeah. And that that connective tissue, bone broth, and all those like animal products that are again nose to tail. It gives you the full amino acid balance and that spectrum of amino acids that are necessary for muscle building, for gut regeneration, your gut microbiome health. That's it.
So what do you say to people, or maybe you don't say anything to them? What's your take on people who say that you can get everything you need just from plants?
You can get everything that you need, but you're definitely not gonna be an optimal human being,
right?
And
what's going to be missing?
Ultimately, what's going to be missing? We don't have certain vitamins. So, for example, you cannot get B12. You have to get intramuscular shots because, again, our digestive tract annihilates the pill form of vitamin B. Additionally, one of the biggest things that concerns me is the EPA and DHA. So the essential fatty acids that we simply do not get from plant products. And when I see, vegan people raising their kids vegan, it's like, what, do you not want your kids' brain to develop? And then there's a very strong link between the lack of essential fatty acids and increased risk of Alzheimer's. So I really don't want my children or anyone in this society to get to that point. Like we are living this life, in my opinion, it's our duty to be as optimal as possible so we can tap into our full potential and help others around us to do the same.
Yeah. No, I mean, I've interviewed people that are carnivores. I've interviewed people that are vegans, whole foods people. And I mean, my thought is, I'm curious about everybody's philosophy. Right. And I want to take a little bit of wisdom out of something that they're saying that I can just put into my protocol.
Amen to that.
It's not about like this person saying this and it has to be like this. But I mean, I feel that, and vegans will argue that, humans weren't supposed to eat meat and all of that. But I mean, we're part of nature,
right?
And that nature is animals, and we've been eating animals for however long. And to say that we don't need animals is to say, I think, saying we're not part of nature.
Right. No,
that's the way
I do agree with you on that. And another thing that I wanted to add is food is not religion. You don't have to identify with one way of eating and defend it. You don't have to. It's simply, I call myself a nutritional agnostic. That's it. I was like, as you said, you take parts of what works for you, and really from a biochemical standpoint, what I said, nose to tail, animal products, and high quality source of food. That's it.
Yeah, and I mean that's one of that alone is massive. Like, I mean, the quality of food in especially in Western countries, Australia and USA, and what you get from the supermarket shelves it's just rubbish. It's just and we've been taught that that's food.
Right. It's
pathetic. Not food. And why do we call organic food? It's just why isn't it just food? why isn't the non-organic food labeled as this is shit food and organic is just food?
Yeah, exactly. And one of the things is like those are not food products. Those are food-like substances ultimately on the shelves, and they're engineered to be hyper-palatable to get you addicted to them, and you're getting zero nutritional value out of this. And the beautiful thing is that we get to vote with our money, with our dollars, and the more we vote for the things that we want and need, the more of that is going to be out there.
So do you think that people's habits and that's changed? Like, do you think that the needle is moving on that? Do you think we're going in a better direction now, or do you think we've just still got too far to go?
I'd like to say yes, and slowly but surely we are moving in the right direction. However, I noticed this pattern that I'm exposed to people in my network, in my environment, who ultimately are just like me. They're looking to optimize every area of their life, and they're going after it. Everybody has meditative practice, movement practice. They're going through unpacking their childhood traumas, going on plant medicine journeys. It's like that's normal for me at this point. And then you're looking into the Western world. There's a big wide gap that we're slowly trying to fill.
And I mean, we're blessed here in Bali that we're very exposed to that, and I'm very lucky that I get to, have friends like you and be exposed to such really, really cool information. And like you described, it's like that's your everyday kind of life now. But for the average person somewhere else, it's like that's almost a separate thing. It's like, when something is wrong with them, then they'll go and try to fix this thing, and they'll go and see a psychologist or whatever. And it's like those things are outside of them. It's like, I'm just going to live my life, and then when something breaks, I'll just go fix it. When my body breaks, I'll go to the doctor, rather than living an optimum life and all of these things, practices that are good for you, just weaved all together, so you don't ever have to fix yourself.
Right, and prevention is power, man. It's like that mentality of reactivity rather than being responsive to your day-to-day inputs. That's just not conducive to long-term success. Every single person has a plan, vision, and structure in their lives that they ultimately follow. And we want to have that structure to be as optimal as possible. And when you're saying that sometimes, people have, it seems like such a long way to travel from here to there. However, when you surround yourself with people who are like-minded, who are going in the same direction, it just becomes so much easier. You just know that, okay, we're on the same journey, we're on the same path, and you're going to get to 10 years from now regardless. So we can get to that 10 years from now in the most optimal state of you, or just how you were 10, 20, 30 years before. Yeah.
You were talking before about sleep. Obviously, that's a critical part of your for yourself, and also for this work you're doing with your clients as well. Like, tell me about some of the science that you've unpacked around sleep, because there's different theories, and I have this thing, the Whoop strap, and this measures a number of things, sleep being one of them, heart rate variability. We'll talk about that as well. But sleep is obviously like massive, and I never used to sleep well like 10, 15 years ago. Like, I would fall asleep at 3 o'clock in the morning, and I'd have to sleep on the sofa I could watching TV just so I could fall asleep. And then 2 hours later, I'd get up and go to bed, and it was, it wasn't healthy. It was a mess. And now I sleep like just like that, and I wake up super easy. And it's a massive element of being optimum, that's for sure.
Man, when I used to say that I'll sleep when I'm dead, that's the stupidest thing that I've ever said. So I want to take that back, because it's a horrible idea.
I think I've said that maybe 2,700 times also. Yeah.
It's a horrible idea. So ultimately with sleep, it's a massive problem. It's a pandemic around the world, with sleep deprivation. And one of the things, man, after one night of sleep deprivation, like, your blood sugar levels rise to almost like a pre-diabetic levels. So your cravings, most people have cravings after a sleepless night, those are because you did not sleep enough.
Yeah.
It's that simple. So sleep is massive. And so you're measuring it with the Whoop band. I'm using Oura Ring. The problem with sleep science and all the science around sleep at this point, and the emerging research, is that we know so little about it. And that's a problem. However, as a baseline, knowing how your baseline deviates and fluctuates, it's an incredible, powerful thing to have.
Yeah, well, what I like measuring on this with my sleep is it and I've got no idea how accurate it is, right? But it's probably still a good indicator of whether it was better today than yesterday, right?
Precisely, yeah.
And then I'm trying to look at, well, what did I do different yesterday or today? And are there patterns that I could recognize over time? And one of the things that measures is slow wave sleep and REM sleep, right? And then obviously those two things combined, you want to maximize them as much as possible. You want to have 40 to 50% or whatever. That's what I've read. That's my understanding, because that's when your body is regenerating, right? That's when you're in the restorative stage. So what's your understanding of all of that, and how many hours is it different for different people? Like, does it really vary? Obviously, how much people exercise and move and their lifestyles plays a part, but by how much?
Those are all great factors and that you mentioned, and they need to be considered. So from our brain performance to how much of the thinking we do, moving, fasting, all of it kind of adds, again, thinking about our body as a battery, and the more you do, the more you need to regenerate. And a few of us humans who are lucky have this genetic ultimately makeup and genetic mutation where we don't need more than 5 hours of sleep, and we can fully function on that. Not just one of those people who was on stimulants all the time and compensating for that, but actually they don't need it. They die quicker anyway, but so it's kind of a win-lose. Yeah, but there is quite a bit of variation. So obviously I see when I exercise, I need more sleep because my body, again, for the sheer volume and sheer size, needs more time for regeneration. And I incorporate incorporate different modalities as well, man. So if I get, as you said, 40 to 50%, if I get over 40% of REM and deep sleep, that's like a great night. And I usually sleep from anywhere from 6 to 7.5 hours. So that's my happy spot. And actually recently invested in one of the devices that mimics 2 hours of sleep in 20 minutes. So that's something in the afternoon.
So is this with the goggles, like the green, the light?
No, not that. There's like this bioprocess signaling disc. I might be butchering the name of it. And ultimately, you put it on, and there are trilateral beats in your headphones in an app that is constantly changing and updating its algorithm, so your brain doesn't get adjusted to it. And it puts you into this deep state where you're in between sleep and wakefulness. So if you've done a sensory deprivation tank in the past, it's kind of virtual sensory deprivation tank. Yeah. So for 20 minutes, I take that optimized nap, as my girlfriend calls it, and 20 minutes of that optimized nap, and I feel super fresh, so I can actually cut back on sleep a little bit. Again, I don't mess with it too much. I just do that to recharge, to rejuvenate myself. And
yeah, cool. Yeah, no, I mean, my sleep is probably 6.5 to 7.5 hours. If I sleep more than that, I actually feel tired. Usually
I get
more
groggy.
than that, it's like I feel wake up a little bit groggy. That might be something to do with the sleep cycles and when I'm waking up. I'm not entirely sure. But I actually feel better on probably 5 hours than I do on 8 hours.
Gotcha. Interesting. That's very interesting, actually. One of the practical things that I wanted to mention is our sleep really begins at the moment that we wake up. So when we step outside and expose ourselves into the natural sunlight, that's something that our eyes register. It's like that cortisol, that sun exposure that we get, and our retina registers that light, that morning light. Ultimately, we're animals. It's like we live with cycles of nature. So exposing yourself to that morning light, I put blue light blockers when the sun sets. So because we do use electronics, if you're watching Netflix, if you're working on your computer, you do want to block that artificial blue light as much as you can. And making your bedroom just a sacred place. Yeah. Like, I only have a red light in my bedroom, so just turn it on. There's no, because the red light is the one that does not disrupt your sleep patterns. And the artificial blue light, these especially podcast lighting lights, they're just, our body is thinking, you're giving your body a signal that, hey, it's still daytime. And your body's confused. I go, okay, I was trying to wind down, but this cortisol is being pumped. I'm not getting the antioxidants that are necessary. And additionally, my melatonin production is stopped. So you're shooting yourself in the foot. Yeah.
Cool, man. What are some of your other practices? So obviously you do meditation. That's a daily thing for you. Any other kind of rituals and habits that you do? I mean, it sounds like what I love about what you're sharing is there's a lot of elements of bringing presence to your day, right? And I think even that in itself can be restorative, right? That's also resting, right? That's kind of recharging the battery, even just a little bit. So I really love that. I try to do that as well. Like I take moments when I'm like hardcore working. I do it in 1.5 hour blocks, and then I take 15 minutes off, and I might just have a drink and just walking around, doing a little bit of movement, and sit there and meditate a little bit or whatever. And even that is like, that's regeneration.
That's massive. That's something, because we create so many external pressures and we get into this reactive state, and that depletes us ultimately. So that little recharge, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever it is, that even 30 seconds is so easy to.
I think also what it does is it takes you out of the pressure of what you're working on.
Exactly.
And because you can just get so wrapped up in, I've got to get this done, I've got to hustle, I've got to make my money, I've got to do this. And it just becomes too much and unhealthy. And then you're not productive. Then you think you are.
Exactly. It's counterproductive. It is counterproductive. And when you think that break is going to stop you, that's actually the opposite. That break is going to help you be more productive. Yeah. Especially, with movement. And that's something, whoever said, when your body's moving, your mind is grooving. So that's really, really true. Yeah.
Cool, man. So any other rituals that you do, or habits, or
I have quite a lot, man.
Yeah.
I have quite a lot, and that's something that.
Well, and you know, we don't need you to give away all your secrets.
Yeah.
But
One of the things, man, is reflection. So if I was to give a gift to every single person in the world, that would be first of them would be meditation, and the second one would be reflection. So putting some time aside to see what you're grateful for, to review your day, to actually see what you want to commit to, and then revisit your vision on like a yearly basis, and going back to, I mean, if you don't have your mission or purpose statement written down, or you don't have a vision built out, like a 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, 10 year that you're constantly revisiting, it's like you're ultimately living life by default rather than by design, because our prefrontal cortex follows the law of the survival of the busiest. Yeah. The more we offload into our conscious brain of the things that we want to focus on, the more our subconscious mind is looking for opportunities for those things to manifest in our day-to-day. So it's that simple. Revisiting, reflecting on, hey, this is what happened. This is what I want to focus on.
And that's why it's so important to manage what is in your immediate conscience. Like,
precisely.
Like you got to fully manage that, and manage the distractions, and manage the media and all the information that you got to be
mix it all up.
You got to be in control of what you're feeding yourself.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Like me coming from that post-Soviet era, there are so many things in my subconscious mind that now when I'm doing all this work with meditation and other modalities that I'm unpacking, and it's coming up. Oh, I had no idea that it's still there. It's been over 20 years, since that happened, and it's still there. It's still triggering me and popping up.
And there'll be stuff popping up your whole life,
exactly.
As long as you're looking.
Exactly. And the beauty of it is that something that I really discovered and learned from one of my good friends is every single phenomenon, every single memory or trauma has this cycle. And if that cycle is completed, it becomes empty and produces wisdom. If that cycle doesn't complete itself, our subconscious mind is constantly looking for opportunities for it to complete itself, and then it manifests in our day-to-day, and if we're not aware of it, it's screwing us over.
Yeah.
So that's, again, circling back to the concept of doing less stupid things. That's ultimately.
Yeah, that's very powerful, man. I like that. Very cool. Hey, what do you think is going on in 2020, man? What do you think is happening in the world? Like, I mean, obviously there's the surface level stuff of, pandemics or plandemics or however you think about it. And there's politics and there's all sorts of nonsense going on. But, in the grand scheme of humanity in the world, like, what do you think is going on?
It's the best year ever. Yeah. No, really. So for me personally, if I look at from at 2020 from the subjective standpoint, that's the best year ever. Every single year for me is the best year ever. And if that's not the case, I think we should reevaluate our priorities and how we live our lives. And in general, for the humanity, and looking at this more objectively, I would say that it was an opportunity for us to stop, reevaluate where we at, where we want to go. What is it that actually matters? And this little break and little pause and taking a step back, I think it's just for the better.
Yeah. So where do you think? How do you think all this nonsense came about? Like, where did we go wrong?
Oh man,
I know we're going deep down the rabbit hole now, but
for sure. Well, one of the things, man, is ultimately our inability to create those preventative measures in order to be responsive and non-reactive. What happened is something popped up, we became super reactive, and then we dug ourselves into a hole which it's kind of hard to climb out of now.
But I think, we created all of that through chasing money. Mm-hmm. If you look at the way humans used to live 500 years ago, they just lived with nature, and there was no, all this reaction to things that went on. And now it's like, there's industries that are there to support the industries, not the humans. And then, we just kind of get caught up in the middle of all this, and we think we're doing the right thing, but we're not in control of our own bodies, and we're living in the matrix, but we don't we think that we're free. That's the illusion.
Right. And that's actually the beauty of it, because Mother Nature, or whatever you want to call it, said, screw you. I'm going to force you to take a step back. I saw this somewhere on social media. It's like, it sent Mother Nature send us back to our room, like our parents. So it's like a forcefully
out of all the things that Mother Nature could invent, right, to slap us in the face with, hey, you guys are off track a little bit or a lot. Here you go.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And then that's again reevaluating those priorities and raising that collective consciousness. So the more people are aware of how they feel, how they can help themselves, optimize themselves, and then ultimately, once they help themselves, they can help others better. The more of those people we have, that collective consciousness keeps rising, and the more people awaken and actually tap into their full potential, the better world we can have. I'm a dreamer, but hey, it's
so am I. But I'm very optimistic about the future. I'm very, I think this year's, I think in some ways it's hilarious to me.
Yeah.
I'm like, I know people are dealing with stuff. I'm not trying to diminish.
Right.
But on a grand scheme of things, I'm just laughing inside. I'm like, I think it's freaking hilarious.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's like one of the things that ultimately sometimes I find myself, that kind of bites me in the ass sometimes. But yeah, I look, what is the win in every situation? Yeah. Whatever happens, it's like it's always two sides of the coin. There's no good or bad. It's just how you react to it ultimately. And that's what meditation has taught me quite a bit. I wish I had discovered that a decade ago. Yeah. So now having that opportunity to discover those practices that are going to keep you grounded, or that are going to keep you living the life that you want to live, hey, it's beautiful.
Yeah, and look, I mean, it's pretty much every episode we end up talking about meditation, fasting. It's all the same things. I'm talking to different experts about different things, and it's the same stuff coming up. And probably also because that's been an access for me as well. This thing that we're talking about with this, having this hyper awareness of yourself and your body and what triggers you and all of that. It comes from these disciplines. It comes from fasting, fasting. Removing everything from your body, I think, is the only way you can get in touch with your body. Right.
And every religious discipline around the world has some form of fasting.
Every ancient culture all did fasting.
Yeah, exactly.
And humans are the only animals that don't fast when they're sick.
Right.
Every animal on the planet fasts. That's what they do.
That's another good point for sure. Man, I kind of want to dive into, so we talked about optimization just in general. It's like we dove quite deeply into biology, which is super, super important. I kind of want to cover other things that I feel like are necessary to be an optimized human.
100%.
Yeah. So another one is that I really, I'm really massive on is leadership. How you lead yourself and how you lead others. Like having that courage to step up, to have uncomfortable conversations, and living the life that is not just around you, but around others as well. So that's leadership is another thing that I just, hey, if you want to be an optimized human, work on that.
Yeah, and this, self-leadership, man. And this is, one thing I noticed about this year is the circumstances of 2020 just shine a light on what is there for people.
Yes.
And if people are inherent leaders, like if they have that, it's like they're stepping up. Right, and then
circumstances do not make up the man. They simply reveal.
They just reveal it. Yeah. And not that I've got it all figured out, but that's one thing that happened to me. It's like something just came over me. Like I got to do more. I got to stand up. I got to be bigger. Right, and it was just something flowing through me. Right.
That's a beautiful thing that you mentioned. Is like, not that I have it all figured out. It's like that's something that, for example, when I coach people or people see me as a persona who's helping others, the assumption is that I have it all figured out. That's nonsense. That's nonsense. I know exactly. So the only difference is that I am aware of every single one of those points and inputs that are necessary in order to become an optimized human, and I'm constantly working towards them and constantly tweaking and
they're going to be changing over the years.
Exactly, they're going to be evolving. Because I ask myself, what does it mean to be an optimized human for over 100 times? And it keeps changing, it keeps evolving. And that's the beauty of it. I might change my opinion on fasting or animal products. And that's fine. I'm going to go back and say, hey, I was wrong. And that's one of the things that, we want to be right more than we want to grow.
Yeah. And like my, I've rubbed shoulders with some really successful people, really wealthy people, and I've never met one person who has their shit figured out. Right. It's like we all have our shit to deal with, but we think that there's a place to get to. Like we think that there's some level, and when I get to that level, well, then I'll feel this or I'll be that or whatever. And it's like, no, man, actually people who are doing big things, they've got bigger problems. Right?
Exactly. It's just
different scales.
Precisely. That's amen to that. That's the best way of putting it. It's like we tend to put people on the pedestal that we think that what it looks to be successful. So that external is just simply, again, not in every case, but the external world is simply the reflection of your internal.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's really good that you bring up that leadership aspect, because to me this is all kind of all weaved together. Like this idea of really mastering yourself and optimizing yourself, and having the discipline to do that. That is where mastery comes from. That is a level of leadership. And it is in the demonstration of that to yourself that you inspire other people, right? And that's what leadership is.
Yeah.
It's not about like trying to push people to do something. It's about you being the best example for yourself, and then that inspiring other people. And you've got to hold yourself accountable to these things. So
lead by example. And for some reason, now, again, not all people, I do actually believe that all people are leaders. We just fall back into this pattern of seek pleasure, avoid pain. And once we get caught in between of that, we kind of lose ourselves in it. And every single person has the ability to lead. It's just discovering where, how, when, and hopefully it comes.
Yeah, man, this has been awesome, really insightful, and we could probably talk for days.
Absolutely.
But I've got one final question for you. But before we do that, just want to acknowledge you, man, just for you're doing really good work, and the depths of that you're obviously going to for yourself and being the example for other people is very inspiring. I'm inspired. So
I appreciate that.
there's some things I want to learn now, and so I appreciate you for that. And how can people find you? Like, what's the best way? Instagram, website.
Instagram is good. Human.optimized.
Yep.
That's where I'm super active. I always go down rabbit holes of experimentation, and I just enjoy trying new things, and I share my journeys. There's a lot of mindset stuff that's in there, and that's one of the easiest contacts. And then my website, humanoptimized.co. And actually, one of the things that I want to give your audience as well is this high performance questionnaire. Ultimately, in order for us to achieve things, we need to first know where we
like
stand.
You said, you need to know where we're going.
Exactly.
But then you need to know where you are right now. Yeah.
Point A and point B. So to figure out that point A, it's humanoptimized.co/high performance.
Because we probably on some level, if we don't ask these questions for ourselves, we kind of assume that we know where we are.
Right.
And we kind of think that we know where we're going, but we don't really think about it. Then when somebody probes a question of you, you go, oh, hang on, I didn't really think of it like this into this detail. So I think that's a very powerful thing to do. We'll make sure everyone's got the link to the website and go check it out. That's going to be super powerful. Brother, thank you so much for coming in. One final question. If you had the superpower of mental telepathy just one time, and you could connect one single message with all of humanity, what would that message be?
I need a second for that. I would say connect deeper to yourself. Because once you know yourself well, you can help others, you can know others better, and that's the ultimate goal.
Yeah. Yeah, you're in control and you can create and be anything and then pass that on. That's cool, man. Awesome, brother. Thank you so much for coming in. Guys, go check out the links. Check out AJ. Obviously doing some really, really cool stuff. And he's a beast with this human optimization topic. So, guys, thank you very much for tuning in. I'll see you next time back down the rabbit hole.